Welcome back to our video. Today we are back from the NFL video, this time talking about just how big of a year 2023 is going to be for Deshaun Watson. Not in the sense of him going off, leading the league in passing yards, just how big it's going to mean for his entire career because of the, pressure and everything on the line for this year. We're going to go through all that kind of stuff. I already have some things pulled up and kind of have a idea of where this is going to be going. So we're just going to hop right into it. First, I wanted to get the contract situation out of the way because whenever Deshaun Watson comes up, I think the contract, among other things, is always one of the first to come up. But for his contract, so for those of you that may not have heard, his contract did get restructured going into next year, and I think kind of all over. But either way, it says Cleveland was roughly $14 million over the salary cap and need to get it under it before the official start of free agency on March 15th. With this restructure with Watson, the team not only has gotten under the cap, but now has created $22.3 million in space to be active in free agency and address other needs across the roster. So, of course, this is older. We now know what Cleveland did in the free agency. And honestly, they had a sneaky good offseason. I will give them that. I think they addressed a lot of things that did need to be addressed, especially on the defensive side of the ball. It says Watson had a base salary of $46 million this upcoming season. The team was able to convert a chunk of that to a signing bonus, which created the space. And then Watson now has a base salary of just $16 million or 1.16 million, it's $1.16 million for 2023, and a cap hit of $19.1 million. So either way, I want to get that out of the way that it is restructured a lot, so it's not this huge contract. It's still big because if you read on, it does say Watson has a cap hit of $63.9 million and then a void year in 2027 that has a $8.9 million cap charge. And then it just kind of says at the end, this likely won't be the last restructure. I agree. I think everybody probably does. The contract was just bad to begin with. That was a lot of guaranteed money for someone that hadn't played in over a year. It had a lot of question marks around him. But yeah, so I just want to get that out of the way. It hasn't restructured. It's much different now. So we're going to be going into everything about him other than the restructure and all that kind of stuff. So next, I have his stats pulled up from this past year. Now, if you maybe you don't know, he was suspended I think 12 weeks. So he played 5 total weeks, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, 6 total weeks. But yeah, so he started out with the Texans, which was very interesting scheduling wise, and then went to the Bengals, Baltimore, New Orleans, Washington, and then Pittsburgh, obviously. So his best game was by far against Washington, where he had 3 touchdowns to no interceptions, 169 yards, and went 9 for 18. Now, to me, looking at this, nothing really jumps off the page. I think his best passing game was probably against Cincinnati, where he had 276 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, but that did come with a loss. So overall, I mean, you have to cut him some slack because he hadn't played in a long time, over a year. Didn't have the offseason with the team because of the suspension. Really only had, I think, 2 months or maybe 1 month to actually play with the team at all in practice to get warmed up for the season. So he ended the season with 1,102 yards, 7 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. Now, it's going to be a lot different going into next season. This is, I think, kind of going to be the focus of this video. So I'm going to kind of brush past this. We're going to go to his schedule, where we're going to sit on for the rest of this video and talk through some things. So first off-season changes. In my opinion, the biggest one that impacts Deshaun Watson is getting Elijah Moore from the Jets. He was a great receiver. Zach Wilson just couldn't see him. He got open a lot. I'm not sure you guys have seen some of those clips where Elijah Moore had a really nasty route and he just wasn't even looked at. I think one of those was against the Vikings, I want to say. And I could be wrong about that, but there's just been so many opportunities to get him the ball and it just never happened. But in Cleveland, I think he has a great opportunity because Cleveland doesn't have the craziest weapons. At least not last year. I think this year it's a bit stronger because now I want to say they have, and I'm not super, knowledgeable when it comes to the Browns, but I will say, to prepare for the video and all, I believe they would have now Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, and then Donovan Peoples-Jones for the receivers, Dave Njoku, of course, for tight end, and then they would have Nick Chubb and Jerome Ford, I believe, as running backs. So to me, that receiving core is actually pretty solid. And if you know what Watson had back in Houston, his receiving core is arguably worse than what he has now. So he has better weapons now, an entire offseason to prepare. And I think it's a great pickup, honestly. It's a great trade getting Elijah Moore. He's still young. He showed a bunch of flashes his rookie year and just really got quite unlucky with the whole, circumstances surrounding the Jets last year as to why he didn't produce as much, obviously. Now, going into next season, this is the Browns' schedule. So It's going to be tough. And the reason I have this as a huge year for Deshaun Watson is not because I think he's going to go off. He might, I don't know. But it's a huge year just for the Browns because this is what they got him for, is to win them games. And they're going to obviously need to be winning games, but especially this year because this division, the AFC North, is one of the best in football. You got to play the Bengals twice a year, the Steelers twice a year, and the Ravens twice a year. And no matter how bad teams are in this division, they always play each other very, very well. Usually. I'm not going to say always, but usually they do play each other very, very well. So you got to think, what is the Browns' schedule looking like outside the AFC North? Well, they have Tennessee. That's definitely a winnable game. They have San Francisco, a very tough game. Indianapolis, which is definitely a winnable game. Seattle will be tough. Arizona should be a win for the Browns. Denver's defense, obviously phenomenal. It's going to be a very tough game. Probably very defensive, I would guess. Then they have, of course, the Rams. Definitely a winnable game for the Browns. Jacksonville will be tough, but I think it's probably still winnable. And then, of course, you have Houston and Chicago, which I think will be good games regardless of who wins that one. Then New York, of course, will be tough. So the schedule is not easy for the Browns by any means, but this is a huge year for Deshaun Watson because you got to think, I mean, if he doesn't produce, are they going to immediately move on for him? No, he has that contract. He's locked down, all that kind of stuff. But it is going to show the Browns what they really have moving forward because this season is really just Deshaun's first big season, I guess, since having this break from football and not being able to, play year-round, all that kind of stuff. So what he does this year is going to really, really show what type of player he is going to be in the future. And a lot of the Browns' future hopes is hanging on him because I know they restructured the contract and all that stuff, but it doesn't take away from all the picks they traded. They put a lot of stock in Deshaun Watson. If he does not turn out, to be great for him, it's going to be tough. But he can definitely prove it with a schedule like this because really any win except for Houston, Arizona, Indianapolis, maybe even Chicago, any of those wins are a step up from last year. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this because I think this is going to be a highly debated topic, especially at the start of this year, is what the Browns are going to be like because they are technically, I would say, at the bottom of the AFC North, but that does not mean they're a bad team by any means. It's a very, very tough division. In my opinion, I would still have it going Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, Browns, but I mean, really, I think there's a bigger gap between the Bengals and second, but second through fourth is all very, 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 very close. And really, the gap between first and second being bigger than the rest isn't saying much because, again, the Ravens are a very, very competitive team. So Deshaun has a lot to prove this year. I think is really going to dictate. I mean, I don't want to jump ahead, but I want to say the rest of his career because I think whether he goes on to be a huge success here in Cleveland, it's going to come back to his first year back and looking at what he did because it's going to set the tone for just the Browns in general. Everybody's going to be looking at Deshaun Watson, seeing what are we going to do? You know what I mean? So I think it's a huge year for Deshaun Watson. Cleveland really, I think, made a lot of change, like I mentioned, that I think really put them in position to win. And it's really going to come down to what Deshaun can do. And I want to go back to his stats from last year. Where is my... Okay, there it is. To his stats from last year from when he was playing, because you got to look at, he started out 12 for 22, and as the games went on, it was the end of the season. So granted, maybe some starters weren't playing, or some teams have already just kind of, stuck with the tanking route and all that kind of stuff. I would assume Deshaun took every game very seriously for him because, they were all reps he really needed. And I think it was a good sign that he did play fairly well against teams in his division. Because you got to look Cincinnati, he had his most passing yards against them. Then he goes to Baltimore, and it wasn't the craziest game by any means, but he didn't turn the ball over against a pretty good defense, and they ended up winning that game. So, again, that's very solid there, too. And, of course, Pittsburgh, they did lose, but Deshaun, again, had his second-best passing game with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. That's a great defense. So, 2 interceptions against the Steelers, and, it's honestly sometimes the standard. So, I think as it went on, he did show flashes of, kind of the old Deshaun Watson in Houston and what he really can be. But I am really interested to see what the Browns do next year because I think that if they can put everything together, they could honestly be very, very good in this division. It's just going to be very, very competitive. It's going to be a huge year for Deshaun Watson to really show what he has, what he can do if he's going to bounce back from just not even a suspended season, just everything he's had going on. I'm not going to get into specifics. You obviously know what I'm talking about. But it's going to, because it affects you mentally too. So we're going to see if he can really bounce back. I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited for the football season, and I think Deshaun Watson and the Browns are a huge talking point going into the next year. So that's really going to do it for the video. I just want to bring attention to this because it's going to be a big year for Deshaun. I don't see a ton of people talking about it yet, but I really do think it's going to heat up as the season gets closer because the Browns are not a bad team. I want to be very clear on that. I think the Browns are honestly a pretty good team, but it's really going to depend on what Deshaun does and this huge bounce back year he has. So this is a big year for Deshaun. He has a lot to really show, like I've said. But yeah, so thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you guys are new around here. I'll be doing NFL videos, of course, all off season long, and of course my Madden videos as well. For all my Madden viewers, I did do a poll on my community tab, basically just asking you guys if you want to see NFL and Madden videos. Madden did win. Obviously, NFL still got votes, so I still got to do these videos. But for all my Madden viewers, we got content coming soon, so those videos will be back. And I'm just me doing a huge mix of stuff all off season. It's just always be football, whether that's video game or NFL videos. So thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.